So this cartoon is a pretty good example of how scale is important in a political cartoon. And you can see I keep changing this relative sizes of the characters and moving them around. See, I just made the little girl smaller, and in the left panel you'll see I make her smaller again. And part of the reason I I kept having to change the scale was because I was in a bit of a hurry that day. And so I kind of took shortcuts trying to rush the drawing, which ironically extended the time because I kept having to make changes and redraw. See, the little girl is smaller than she was in the original sketch. So I kept having to make changes, which ended up taking longer. And the reason I was in a hurry is I thought of this on a day when there were ice raids starting, plus we were in the middle of a nationwide snowstorm. So it just seemed like a really good time to bring two topics together, which I do often. Again, I'm drawing her now. For some reason, I started drawing her bigger, and then you'll see I shrunk her down again. And that's really important. Scales are really important in a political cartoon, especially over here on the right side where the ICE officer has to be much bigger than the girl. And then the little kids, you always want the head larger than the body because it kind of emphasizes that they're children. That's how we cartoonists draw kids, is little body, big head. So I kept, and the nice thing about the iPad is you can make changes on the fly like this. When I used to draw on paper, you'd have to go erase the sketch if you didn't like it. And man, is it a time saver to have an iPad. Drawing on paper is great. Having originals. I used to draw a sketch on like a tissue paper, and then I'd put it on a light board, and then put like Bristol board over it, and then turn on the light board, and then I'd just trace over the sketch. Much longer, much more time consuming than drawing on an iPad. So, and the other nice thing is when you were drawing on paper and you'd ink in and then you'd make a mistake, you'd have to get white out and white it out and wait for it to dry. It was very annoying when you made mistakes. So this is a technique I like to use a lot where I take two news topics and kind of mash them together. And hopefully create something surprising that way. And like I said, we had a snowstorm or ice storm, as the case may be, and while at the same time that the raids were starting. So I think this has kind of taken a lot of low information voters off guard. I think they expected this Trump term to be similar to the first Trump term, and they remembered, they were doing better financially during the first Trump term, and so they just made a simple-minded choice to vote for Trump, or they didn't vote at all because they were disappointed in Biden because they mistakenly attribute inflation to Biden, which is ridiculous. Biden was not president of the entire world, and the entire world was going through an inflationary stage coming out of COVID because of supply chain shortages. So, but a lot of people who just don't pay close attention and low information voters just make a decision based on how they're doing financially. And in this particular case, it was very disappointing because now we've reelected a man who is doing, I think, terrible things. I think he's already showing his authoritarian streak with all these executive orders, trying to change the Constitution and many other things. So a lot of my worst fears are already coming true. And this is just one more example of it. Thank you all for watching.